with Ochido Ayi. So, I have been away for 2 weeks, and let me tell you what's been going on very briefly. I am an architect, and I've added to my portfolio a PhD researcher. So the last 2 weeks, I run a proper architectural and interior design firm. I have projects in and out of state. So I'm managing all of that. And then I decided to go and become a PhD researcher. So the last 2 weeks, everything came to a head. There was such a pressure from everywhere to meet up with crazy deadlines. I couldn't keep up. I couldn't keep up showing up here. I couldn't keep up my studies. I couldn't keep up reading. Everything I was doing went into my PhD research. So, but successfully, I've been able to cross that hurdle. And we're moving steadily. I've crossed one major hurdle in the PhD, which is like approval of your proposals and things like that. It's a very hectic period. Anyway, we're done with that. So, we're looking forward to bigger things. While in all of that, I couldn't just keep up with the Bible study. But you see, that's why it's so great that I'm doing this with an audience, because if I didn't have where I was sharing this with, I'd probably get carried away and drop out by now. In any case, if you're joining me for the first time, my name is Ochido Ayi, and I'm doing the Bible. This podcast is the Bible in 1 year with Ochido Ayi. I'm choosing to do this because I want to spark a curiosity about the Bible. So, the idea is that I'm a believer, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a preacher. I just want to share my knowledge of the Bible and spark a curiosity in the Word. You see, I think that God speaks for Himself. So, if anyone really wants to know what God is saying, go read the Bible for yourself. You'll be shocked that what other people draw, you will draw something much more deeper, more insightful for your own life. Anyway, I'm doing this to get to know more for myself, and to challenge, or at least to confirm the philosophies that are in there that can work for me, and to discard what I think is not necessary for me in this point in time. I know that's a bit controversial, and I'll leave you to make of it what you will. All right. So I'm going to catch up on the 2 weeks that I missed, and I'm not sure if I'll tell the story in those episodes while I'm catching up. But today we're day 153. Today is the 2nd of June. All right. So day 153, we have 212 days officially to go. Okay. We're in the book of, so every single day, anytime we look at the Bible in 1 year, we follow this Bible guide. It gives us a structured plan that allows us to look at an Old Testament, a New Testament, a Psalm, and a Proverb every single day. Some people say that's a bit much for them. They'll just rather take one book, read one chapter after chapter, follow the Bible from story to story, chapter by chapter. But this study guide gives us chapter by chapter guide, but allows us to read portions from each of these sections that I just mentioned. So thank you for everyone that's joining me there. I see you guys, and I'm saying hi. All right, so today we're looking at our Old Testament comes from 2 Samuel 19 and 20, um, John chapters 21, the last book of John, and then Psalm 120, and then Proverbs 16, 2 verses 16, 17. My real name is Ochido. It's on my profile. My real name is Ochido. So I don't have funky names on my social media. I usually just put out my real name there. All right, thank you for joining me, Gameniha_20. Okay, so let's quickly go in. So what I do is I dramatize the stories. I tell what's going on. I dramatize the stories a bit, put some Nigerian flavor into it, because, well, I just want it to be relatable. So even though I know I have international audiences, I know that basically if you read it, you get what I'm trying to do, and you can probably put your own flavor as well. All right, so 2 Samuel 1:19, David, and then people were like, why? And so David is trying to negotiate his way back into Jerusalem because he was kicked out by his son Absalom. If you go a few stories back, so this is, why not ask David to come back and be our king again? So David calls the priests and he says, I heard that Israel is ready for me again. Why are you all the last to welcome me back? Everyone is saying. So, Gamma, so just to, so sorry, Gamma, this podcast is about reading the Bible from cover to cover. I read through the Bibles. I share the scriptures in the description box, the scriptures that we read today. It's just it's just to spark a curiosity about the Bible. Let people go read it for themselves because we have a lot of third hand information. People read the Bible, rely on pastors and priests to tell them what's in the Bible without ever knowing what is written there. I mean, there are some of the things you will not believe or do if you read it yourself. So basically, I read the Bible, I share my stories, and I put the scriptures in the description box. And then I challenge you to go read it yourself. If you follow me from beginning to the end, if you follow me from beginning to the end, hi Sion. If you follow me from beginning to the end, you would have read through the Bible, you would have heard all the stories, you would have covered everything that's written there. So I do admit some things are really tough to swallow. Some stories I have actually been beefing, but it's the Bible. So let's read the good, the bad, and the ugly. So that's what this podcast is about. So thank you for asking. Yeah. So let me carry on. I'm trying to make sure this podcast is not so long. Okay. So David was driven out by his son Absalom. So I have other stories that I guess you can catch up with later. I've been reading through from the book of Genesis. Now we're in 2 Samuel in the Old Testament. Okay, so David calls the priest and he says, I jot down the main things that I drew from it, my insights, my understandings from it, and then but I try to narrate the story. I try to narrate the story as it is written to cover every major aspect of what was captured in the Bible. So David calls the priest and says that I've heard everybody is ready to receive me back. Why you're the last to welcome me back to my own palace, my own relatives, you men of Judah? Why are you guys refusing to welcome me back? Since my blood. Anyway, I promise you guys, I will appoint you. You are my blood. I will appoint you as so Amasa went ahead, some guy there, and convinced the men of Judah, and they agreed that okay, David should be brought back. The king should come back to his palace and take his throne. A coup was taking place. There's a lot that happened in the stories behind. So just go back to old episodes. I'm going to catch up with everything that has happened before today. All right, so Judah, the men of Judah now met David, and then they escorted him across. They met him at Gilgal, and then they escorted him across the river. Then Ziba is like some very revered servant of Saul, the old king, who had been taking care of Saul's grandson, Mephibosheth. So Ziba from Saul's household also met David with his 15 sons and his 20 servants. So he was a very unusual servant, extremely wealthy man, powerful as well. Everything, the way he was treated in the palace, he was treated with a lot of regard, right? So Ziba and his sons came, and then Mephibosheth also. Okay, so let me stick to the story. Then Shimei came and asked for forgiveness. Shimei was a guy who was insulting David when David was running away from the palace from his son Absalom. Shimei came and asked for forgiveness. He was like, I've sinned, David. I'm so sorry. I don't know what got into me. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I didn't saying I was stupid, man. I was stupid and stuff like that. So Abishai was like, just kill him. After all, he was cursing the Lord's anointed. How dare you curse King David? And so David was like, who asked your opinion? Who asked your opinion, Oga? Listen, we're not going to kill anyone today. Today is not the day for executing anybody. So you, Shimei, you are spared. Then Mephibosheth, Saul's grandson, Jonathan's son, and someone David really liked, came up. He looked unkempt, untrimmed hair, nails, all looking meh. And he was like, oh, David, I'm so glad you're back. Ziba, he left me behind. I wanted to follow you. No one was there to saddle my horses. Ziba was like, they started getting into an argument. I didn't, it wasn't me, it was you. You're the one that left me. Blah, blah, blah. Can't you see I'm looking? Blah, blah, blah. So all of these arguments broke out, and David was like, enough. It's okay. You guys will share. I know this is about the land. Okay? I know this is about the land that I asked Ziba to take care of for Mephibosheth. You see, you know what, you can share. So the backstory is that David had instructed Mephibosheth to share, to take till and to manage Saul's lands for Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth was a surviving child of the dynasty of Saul. And so he was like, take care of the land for Mephibosheth, making Mephibosheth a rich man, but possibly annoying Ziba, because Ziba could treat that guy anyhow. He was crippled. We don't even know if he even had a wife, if he was an important person, but Ziba had to serve him. Meanwhile, Ziba had his own 20 servants and 15 sons, like big guy. So when David was running away, this guy was left behind. And even though Ziba was appearing to serve David, Mephibosheth felt like he was abandoned. And if David came back, David would think he didn't have his back. So Mephibosheth came crying, saying that, why so he was unkempt and everything, and David was like, why didn't you come when I was running? Why weren't you? I mean, who you my guy? And he was like, it wasn't me, it was Ziba who caused it, he left me behind, blah blah blah, and everything. Anyway, David now says, okay, all right, it's enough, just and Ziba was like, whatever you choose to do, I accept. Like, if you're angry with me and you decide to banish me, I mean, I'm lucky that you even give me a place at your table to eat with you. I don't add anything to you. It's of your good heart. So if you want to banish or whatever you want to do, I'm okay with it. So David was like, it's okay, you know. I mean, Jiba used the word, you're like an angel. I mean, I'm honored to even be eating at your table. So David was like, all right, divide the land up between Ziba and Mephibosheth equally. Let Ziba also get something, and you retain something, okay? No, no issues there. Ziba was like, oh, just give everything to Ziba. And Mephibosheth was like, just give everything to Ziba. I don't care. I'm just glad that you're back, and all of that stuff. Um, then a guy called Barzillai, he was 83 years old, who had provided food for David when David was hanging out at that place in exile. David was like, oh, Barzillai, come and stay with us, come to Jerusalem. Barzillai was like, no sir, I'm too old, I have nothing to do in Jerusalem and everything, but take my son. My son can work with you, he can serve you in any capacity that you want to give him stuff. So David was like, all right, I'll take him. He's our brother now. So he takes David's sons. And then when David now arrived in Jerusalem, a quarrel broke out. The other tribes of Israel, the remaining 10 tribes of Israel, now were like, oh, you guys, only the Benjamites and David and Judah were looking out for David. You people just cut us off, made it look like we didn't care. You guys were, what's the matter? He's our brother. Should we leave him? So the bickering got so big, so it just went on, and the men of Judah were like very harsh, antagonizing, just generally upsetting the other tribes of Israel. So David went back to the house. The 10 concubines that were what's the word now, desecrated. It's a very terrible story. Just go back and watch the other episodes. The 10 concubines that were desecrated on the king's palace were put away. They were fed, taken care of, but David never approached them again as wives. So they lived as if their husbands had died. The king couldn't go back into them, and the king couldn't go back. So they lived like widows all the days of their life. So David now asked Amasa, who was very faithful and available when he was in exile, to go and rally the so there was a guy called Bikri, a guy called Sheba Bikri. The guy now said, oh, everybody, David and his wahala, oh, to your tent, so Israel, we reject David, blah, blah, blah. And then people actually agreed. Maybe that whole 10 tribes of Israel, maybe they just said, oh, you're right, this guy, we're not even supporting him again. For what? Who is he? Who does he think he is? And everybody left to their tent. So David knew that another war was brewing, and he wasn't going to take it casually like he did when Absalom was busy building rebellion against him. Anyway, he tells Amasa, go and rally troops, because we need to fight this Bikri. I'm sure he's going to rally a lot of people, and people are going to come, and then we're going to have more trouble. So he goes and he sends Amasa. Amasa takes time in rallying the troops. So Joab and Abishai, two, they had like bloodthirst. It was Abishai that said they should kill the other guy the other time. Joab and Abishai and other warriors now set out to go after Bikri as well. And they met Amasa. and they were greeting him like they're cousins. Oh, hello, Amasa. So a lot of David's main inner circle were actually David's families, cousins, and things like that. So he came close to him. Then Joab brought out a knife and stabbed Amasa and tore him open, and his intestines poured out. And Amasa just dropped to the ground and was dying. The whole of the warriors who were coming after Abishai, they would stop and look, Amasa. They would stop, Amasa. They would say, Amasa. I said, what's going on? So a hold up was building. And so somebody had to just push Amasa to the side and cover him with something. And then the hold up continued, and they continued going after Sheba, going to look for Sheba Bikri. I cannot understand why Joab and Abishai are very bloodthirsty, angry men. Why they killed their own? Maybe they were jealous of him because he was there for David and David seemed to be liking him. Anyway, they killed him in cold blood, And so one needs to be careful and be sensitive. Amasa presented to me as someone who wasn't quite aware of his surroundings. Yes, I perceived that when I was reading the stories, that he just felt like he wasn't paying attention to who he should be wary of. And so even though he thought he met his brother, he was not sensitive, he didn't perceive, and he was just eliminated like a common animal. Okay? Alright. So our New Testament is the last book of John, chapters 21. This is after Jesus' resurrection. So later, Jesus appears to Peter, then he appeared to the twin Thomas. Thomas was a twin. Thomas was very dead. They normally refer to him as doubting Thomas, but Thomas really like, I don't believe, I refuse to believe. So he appeared to Thomas, then he appeared to Nathanael, then James and John, and then 2 other disciples. So people had already started seeing Jesus. And Peter, anyway, at that time, Peter had resumed fishing because it seemed like they didn't know what else to do. Jesus was no longer around. And the other disciples, I think James and John, also went along with him. So the night they went fishing, they caught all night, they caught nothing. When they were coming back, they were like approaching the shore when they saw someone yelling from the shore, "Hey guys, have you caught anything?" And they were like, "No, we didn't catch anything." We're like, "Cast your net to the side, to the right side." And they're like, they cast their net to the right side, and then fishes just entered close to the shore, not even far away like normally they would fish. And instantly John, very sensitive, is like, "It's the Lord. It's the Lord." Peter instantly just says, and he jumps in. Peter is so spontaneous. He jumps into the water and he starts swimming. While the other ones remain in the boat, they're not trying to navigate and bring the thing. But Peter swims all the way to the shore. He's like, he gets to the shore, he's looking at this guy. And then breakfast was already ready. So bring some of the fish you have caught. They caught 153 fish that morning, and the net didn't break. Normally, maybe when the fishes are maybe 50 or 60, maybe the net breaks or something, but 153, the net didn't break. So he was cooking and he said, "Bring some of the fish you've caught. I'm roasting some things on fire." They were just looking at him. No one was like, "Is it you, Jesus?" Which was surprising to me because did he look very different that they couldn't tell by looking at him? Couldn't they just look at him and know this was Jesus? They only inferred he was Jesus because only Jesus could talk to them like that. But in looking at him, nobody didn't tell us they recognized Jesus. They just told us, they were like talking to themselves, "Is this Jesus? Is he the one? Is he the one? Anyway, he must be the one, Sha." Anyway, when he's feeding them, he now asks Peter, "Peter, do you love me?" Peter is like, "Yes, Lord, I love you. Feed my sheep, Peter." "All right, sir." "Peter, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord, I love you. Feed my sheep, Peter." "Okay, sir. All right." "Peter, do you love me?" You keep asking this again and again. "I love you, I love you, I love you." Is it because I went fishing? Is it because, what's going on here? Look, don't ever doubt your love for me. I love you, I love you. I do, please, please. So that's me adding some more flavor. But that was the urgency with which Peter responded the 3rd time. And then Jesus was like, "Feed. You know that I do." And then she was like, "Feed my sheep. Feed my lambs." Okay? Then, now that you are young, you can do whatever you do and go wherever you want to go. But the time will come when you're old and you'll be taken where you don't want to be taken. And Jesus was, I don't know how this explanation came into the Bible. I cannot link it. But it says here, this thing Jesus said to Peter, that you'll be taken where you don't want to go when you're old, was Jesus was telling him how he would die. So maybe there was a way in which Jesus said it that, anyway, him and Peter settle, and then Peter now asked Jesus, "What of this guy? John, because everybody could tell that something about John was special to Jesus. John should have been about 20 at this time. John was like, like the baby of a house, and it was really special to Jesus. And one of this guy, Jesus was like, what's your business? Not your business. Even if I want them to stay long, even if I want to leave and not die at all until I returned, it's no business of yours. You follow your own path and follow your own mission. You just follow me. And then soon, rumors, after that conversation, rumors started spreading that John will not die, John will not die. And you know what? John lived long. This is outside of the story now. Rumors spread that John would not die. It was John who recorded this event. His account is accurate. And this book, the things that John recorded in the book, cannot really, really say how Jesus was and what he meant, how impressive, how godly, how everything about Jesus. He can't be captured in the book, you know. It can't be captured in the book. It can't contain the things that Jesus did. And that's how the book of John ends. That's how the book of John ends. Back end story, John lives really long. John lives so long that even when attempts were made to kill his life, there was once when there was a story that he was put in a boiling pot of oil. He didn't die. So that tells me something, because Jesus was so powerful, and that's the same power that Jesus gives us. If he throws a word casually, that word is it's effective. Even if I don't want him to die, so what? It wasn't even said like, I don't want you to die. He just said it out. And John lived so long that he had to be exiled, like an old man that was kept on some other place in an island because he just didn't fit into modern society any longer. That was how long John lived. But he eventually died, as is the way with all mortals. And that brings the book. It's a very interesting way that John captured. And that brings the end to the Gospels, the 4 books of the Bible that are referred to as the Gospels. All right. So now, Proverbs 16. Proverbs 16. So that tells me that if I really am a child of God, and those are the philosophies and principles that I'm testing, I should be able to say things and believe that they will come to pass, because greater Jesus lives in me now, right? Okay, that's it. Let's move on. So Proverbs 16 verses 16 and 17. How much better to get wisdom than gold, and to get understanding is to be chosen rather than silver. The highway of the upright is to depart from evil, and he who keeps his ways preserves his souls. Then Psalm 120, Psalm 120, Psalm 120, Psalm 120. All right, Psalm 120 verses 1 to 7. And that brings an end to today's reading. I just usually read the Psalms. I'll probably do something on it much later, on just the Psalms. Alright, plea for relief from bitter foes. In my distress, I cried out to the Lord, and he heard me. Deliver my soul, O Lord, from lying lips and from a deceitful tongue. What shall be given to you? Oh, what shall be done to you, you false tongue? Sharp arrows of the warrior with coals from the broom tree. Woe is me that I dwell in Meshech, and that I dwell among the tents of Kedar. My soul has dwelt too long with one who hates peace. I am for peace, but I speak. When I speak, they are for war. So I think David was lamenting here about something. Possibly he lived in a place when he was, David ran around a bit. David had a lot of challenges in his life, a lot of things contested with his being king. All right, so that brings an end to our Bible study for today. It's glad to be back, and I hope to see you all tomorrow. Please subscribe to my channel. Please turn on the notification button to let me know that you're there. And please leave a comment or two about the stories that we shared today. And share this with someone who you think may be curious about the Bible. I'll see you tomorrow.